It can only be Berryman or Van Lozenoord. It's simple. Whoever finishes first wins the championship. It's 2 drivers, it's 1 race, and it's the Hungaroring. The final round of the championship, and we do not need to state just how high the stakes are. Whoever wins this race wins the title between Martin Van Lozenoord and Peter Berryman. Berryman with a 2-point margin. Everything to come along over 50 laps today, but this is the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship, where nothing at all is simple. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the conversation today with iRacing. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside, as per usual, with Peter Mackay and Kenneth Bueno to bring you through all of the most amazing action here today. And Peter, this has been the sort of season that has been a roller coaster. It's been up, it's been down. We've seen so many different names thrown into the hat, but these two have been the most winningest driver and the most consistent driver. And it's a case of philosophy once again.
That's right, Martin Van Lozenoord and Peter Berryman just separated by 2 points, setting up an absolutely straight fight to the flag for this hotly contested championship. As you mentioned, they've done it in 2 different ways. Martin Van Lozenoord with 6 wins from 9 races, Berryman with just 2, but it's Berryman who actually takes the 2-point advantage into this race. That gives you an impression of the consistency of the Northern Irishman. Which approach is going to come out best tonight? Well, that's what we're going to find out.
We absolutely are. And Kenneth, you know, we have this understanding of what has been a very important season. We've had 2 very strong teams trying to push their champion driver to the top. There's been chirping from both sides as they've been trying to get themselves sorted. But now is where the chirping stops and action's put on the table.
And that's what's been captivating, Jake, about this entire season. Whenever a driver gave a call, the other one would answer, and they would just continue back and forth, and that's what led us to this 2-point gap between the 2 titans of the championship. And with this track, Hungaroring being heralded as one of the most difficult to drive on the calendar, that means the top 2 are going to need to strap in and just straight drive to the title.
This is one of the brand new circuits on the iRacing service. It's such an incredible thrill ride, and to talk about this thrill ride, Peter, you need 2 words: technical and masterpiece.
Yeah, this is a very, very tricky circuit, and a lot of the drivers saying that this will be the hardest challenge they've faced all season. A really technical challenge, as you mentioned, and a circuit here at the Hungaroring, which is really steeped in history as well. They've been racing here in the Formula One World Championship since 1986, and in that year, the circuit became the first venue to host a Formula One race behind the old Iron Curtain, where 200,000 people gathered to see Nelson Piquet win the race, and it's been steeped in Grand Prix history ever since.
It certainly has, and if there is any understanding of what a track can be, this is it. They've got that extension run done in 2005 over through turn number 1 up towards turn number 2 to give more of an overtaking opportunity, but it's the opportunity about 2 drivers here, as we will take a look by the numbers, how they stack up. The key here for these drivers, 14 out of 18 top 5s between them here, Kenneth, has been not how good they've been when they've been great. It's more, how good have they been when they've not been great?
Yeah, the losses have been extravagant for the drivers here. For Peter Berryman, he's been able to slow the bleeding. His worst finishes are a solid 8th place finish and a 6th place finish. But for Van Lozenoord, when it hits him hard. 16th place earlier this season, an 11th place finish at Red Bull Ring. And Red Bull Ring, by the way, Jake, was the most pivotal part of the championship because that's what gave Peter Berryman the championship lead by the margin. And then Van Lozenoord had to pick things up at Suzuka last week, win, and got him the 2-point kind of spread that we see right now. It's going to be tight. I don't think anything is guaranteed in this race at all.
It absolutely isn't, and qualifying has proven that. Let's see how the grid stacks up then here today from this Hungaroring circuit, and it is all about the final stages of this race. The number 90 of Johan Hart has the pole. Przemysław Lemonek there starts on the outside, but you've got the two title contenders, 4th and 6th, Martin van Loosnord and Peter Berryman, split by David Toth there in 5th position. You look down, the likes of Valentin Mandanark and Ben Fuller are 7th and 8th, looking for options. Hard tyre for Florian Lebigra. Expect this to be difficult on strategy. 12 went softs in qualifying, 12 went mediums, and 10 went hard. So you're seeing here Florian Lebigra's 0-2 is going to be interesting here. Likes of Andreas Henkel, Jarl Tyen, Jorge Martinez is back there. Alejandro Del Campo as well. They're going to be hoping for some runs through the field. Brian Lockwood will be down in 19th, and 3 that didn't set times. Marcos Nunez, James Pinsker, and Gio Cortese, who will be going from the back of the grid here today. 22 drivers with track conditions, 40 degrees here at this point in time. It's going to be a hot one, but what they also know is that it's a very important run down towards turn number 1. There you can see your Force Dynamics race analysis up on your screen right now, and everyone knows that they have to be at their level best. Everyone getting themselves gridding up now and ready for action. They know it's about 10 laps on the medium tyre. And let's get ourselves into play then with racing action from the Hungaroring. We are set and we are ready. This is going to be where great racing comes to life. The championship on a knife edge, and who has got what it takes. Green flag, and we are underway with racing. It's a great start by Lemonek off the front. Van Loosnord then immediately has to go and cover then, going to the outside here, as now Costantini tries to figure a way to the inside. They all jam on the brakes and run into the opening corner. Who's got the best run out of the corner then? It is going to be Lemonek who has the lead. Costantini and Van Loosnord side by side for third into turn 2. There goes the lunge down the inside by Johan Hart. 2 off in the background as they slide on through. I'm not sure who that was in all sorts of trouble there. Looks like Ben Fuller was involved, as well as Sam Kiter there in the early stages, Kenneth.
It's already some sort of tussling here in the first couple of corners, and it's tough when you've got a narrow track like this and so many turns that twist you around every which way. You're bound to have some drivers get together, but it was a tight battle between the top 2. Johan Hart was able to switch in front, get back to the race lead, but it was a slight charge from Przemysław Lemonek. Remember, these two not in the championship fight, but they still want to look for the win, and they're going to be as aggressive as possible.
They absolutely are, and that victory could be oh so important between now and the end of this race. It's a 50-lap affair, so they know it's going to be a long one. 2 stops today they will have to conduct as they get themselves through now into turn 13 out on circuit. These very tough left-hand, right-hand hairpins that bookmark the start and the end of the lap here, Peter. They're going to be so key on tyre life, and those who started on the mediums know it's the short stint first that they're dealing with, and you're seeing here on the front stretch an Indianapolis-like serpentine.
Yeah, the leading driver, number 90, Johan Hart, trying to break the draft, and then every other driver falling behind, trying to stay within that draft. There's a little mistake there for Michele Costantini in the number 66 car, just washed out wide coming out of turn 1, and that's just given a couple of car lengths of breathing space to Martin van Loosnord, who's in 3rd right now, with championship contender Peter Berryman sitting in 5th.
Yeah, we're going to have a look back here at what happened to Ben Fuller and Sam Kiter off the start. They were making that run up, of course, in towards turn number 2, and it's just Kiter getting it all wrong, missing his braking point there, Kenneth, and that's it. That's all she wrote in terms of the final race.
And it's very tough for Sam Kiter, who we've seen be very consistent, has some strong finishes and runs here in the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. And he went over the radio saying it was my mistake. And unfortunately, Sam Kiter's race is over on lap 1 before it really even gets started, Jake, on the season finale.
And that is also a testament to just how fragile these cars can be when there's trouble out there on track. And it looks like Marcos Nunez as well has run into a little bit of trouble as well. He is down in the pits. So your leaders right now looking pretty strong at the moment. Johan Hart leads the way from Przemysław Lemonek in 2nd. Martin van Loosnord is in 3rd position. He'll have the title wrapped up if he can keep it there. Costantini is 4th. Peter Berryman is in 5th. And David Toth is in 6th position as they run towards turn number 2. Big trains then we're seeing through this field. It stretches all the way back to 9th position, and Tamás Simon, the Hungarian, on his home track, looking for as much of a run as possible today. And if you can get as much as you can, it's going to be so important as we focus on the Predator car there in third position. Martin van Loosenoord making his way up to the very tricky chicane, Peter.
Yeah, and just an update on Ben Fuller, of course, involved in that incident with Sam Kuijter. The gloves are off, maybe in more ways than one, but that means he is done for the day, not expecting to get back out on track. So what a pity for the man from Indianapolis. But back at the front, number 90, Johan Harth, fastest lap of the race at the moment, with Previslav Lemonek right behind, and indeed Martin van Loosenoord in touching distance as well. Berryman relatively steady at this early stage. Plenty of time to go, though.
He absolutely is. We're going to go back then and have a look here. This is what happened to Marcos Nunez then on the second lap of the race. Oh, he just got a huge amount over the curb, and he's actually gone and taken someone off. That's Ben Fuller he's actually run into there, who was a complete passenger at that point in time. And that's how quickly it can go wrong around this circuit. There's a lot of AstroTurf, Kenneth, around the outside of some of these areas of track. And when you get onto that, you have that reduced grip. It's so conducive to spinning.
It's so hard to really get back on track, especially when you're at that part of the racing venue. And that's been a problem all season long with these cars. We've mentioned multiple circuits where the curbs are just big no-no spots. You don't really want to abuse them too much because they can really set your car off and away, and you have no choice but to just hang on and pray you don't hit an outside wall, an inside wall, or any sort of barrier at all. And unfortunately for Marcos Nunez, that is the end of his race. Same deal with Ben Fuller. So unfortunate for those two. They're going to have to pack it up early from the Hungaroring circuit, but it's a nice fight up at the front because, Jake, it is still getting tighter between the championship leaders. Martin van Loosenoord, last time by, fastest lap of the field. He's got that extra point for now.
He does have that extra bonus point, and that will serve him in good stead for the time being. And it's also important that he starts making a move now because he's got his teammate just in front, Przemysław Lemonek. He can use him in a sense to try and build a gap. You look at it right now, it's about 0.6 of a second here between Van Loosenoord and Costantini as they make that run on the front stretch. They want to try and stretch that gap out right now to 1.2 seconds, Peter. That will break the draft between those two drivers, and then it'll be plain sailing for Martin from there on to the end. The one thing they'll be concerned about, though, at the front, you'd surely have to argue, is Johan Harth trying to back up the field again so that Costantini and Berryman are back in range of Van Loosenoord.
Well, Johan Harth certainly isn't doing that at the moment. His last lap, a 1 minute 18.6, which is only a tenth off the fastest lap of the race. In fact, less than a tenth of the fastest lap of the race set by Martin van Loosenoord. So I suspect that Johan Harth is he's just getting out there and running his own race, doing exactly what he can do right now. The big question mark we have is strategy. Of course, the fuel tank can go 20 laps, but these medium tyres fitted to the front-running cars cannot. We believe 10 laps is the optimum length of stint for these medium tyres, and then they'll have to go on to the hard tyres after that, we think. But we know that both of these crews, the R8G team and the Apex team and their 4 cars, they'll have something up their sleeve. You can be guaranteed of that.
Absolutely. We're taking a look at Martin van Loosenoord right now in the number 69 machine. He always looks like he's not breathing at all. He's just keeping himself there. He'll be concentrating. He'll have Graham Carroll in his ears telling him, you're okay, you're doing exactly what you need to do at this point in time. You don't have to be too concerned. As he flicks down the gears through turn number 1 and out away again, he goes. He is very much there, looking like he wants to get what he has done all season. Just a nice, calm opening stint, Kenneth, and that just opens up his strategy through the second and the third phases of the race. He is so good at saving the fuel and the tyres in the first stint.
He always is, and we've seen the overcut happen so many times, Jake, throughout the season. The problem is with this Hungaroring circuit, it's, I think, the toughest out of any track in the calendar to save the fuel. Do what Martin van Loosenoord does every race, because you've got a lack of straights, you've got a lot of corners in between, and you don't really have a lot of time to relax behind the wheel in the draft. So you can maybe try and save the teensy amount of bit, but you can't really save at all when it compares to a lot of the other tracks that have a lot of longer straights, and you can save a lot more of the fuel. Here's a look at Peter Berryman right now, sitting 2 spots behind championship competitor Van Loosenoord. And also, I think, Jake, with Van Loosenoord's focus, Peter Berryman is as focused as ever. We see him usually not crack under this kind of pressure as he tries to work on teammate Michele Costantini.
Absolutely. Peter Berryman looks very solemn at this point in time. He knows that he's not in the position right now, but he doesn't need to be in position here. We're going on to lap 7 of 50. He needs to be in position on lap 50 of 50 to take the title away. And that is the crucial fact that he's got. He's already done a very good job over the course of this stint so far, because he's already built the gap to P6 in David Toft. There is how the live championship points look on the right-hand side of your screen. It is 5 points as things stand to Martin van Loosenoord over Peter Berryman. So job looking pretty well done so far here, Peter, but it's not over. It's far from it.
Oh, yes, if we know anything in this Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship, is that there can be twists and turns around every corner. Martin van Loosenoord knows that, that's for sure. You'll not want to be reminded of what happened at the Red Bull Ring. But just on this last lap, the top 5, get this, covered by 0.5 of a second on lap time. The pace at the front is rapid. In fact, Michele Costantini, 2 laps ago, set a lap time quicker than Van Loosenoord, but he must have stepped across track limits while setting it. That's why he hasn't got the point for the blue strike for the fastest lap at the moment. But Costantini really pushing hard at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And when drivers look for that fastest lap, it's going to have to be an official lap. Look at this battle as well behind for 6th place. This is Valentin Mandenaar trying to get through on David Toft for position. Looks to the inside, trying to take this place away. And that's going to be crucial there. And look behind. That's Matteo Ugolotti here trying to sneak through as well in the number 98 machine. Now, the 98 and the 8 are really fighting for championship. Wide goes Ugolotti then through turn 2. He's going to lose the position as well to Tamás Simon, now the other Hungarian driver in this field. And all of a sudden, all that work from being tied on points, he's now down by 3 in his fight for 6th place overall here, Kenneth.
And Ugolotti, I think over the course of the season, we've known him as sort of the spoiler, the TQ engineering driver. The Spaniard has been there up in the top 3, top 5, and even last week, Suzuka, he got a podium of his own just behind race winner Martin van Loosenoord. So there's no question that the driver of the 98 is very quick, but when you make mistakes like that, even the smallest amount of mistakes is going to blow up the margins and is just going to lose you all that track position. There's a look at the Focus Spaniard right there, just behind the drivers fighting for P6. But the 2 Hungarians trying to make their name for themselves at the Hungaroring circuit, which is their home track. But Ugolotti currently sits 9th. This is some of the lowest that we've seen him all season long. But still a long race to go. Ugolotti can still play this the way he wants to.
Certainly can. The Italian doing a very good job out there and trying to get as much as possible. Currently 18 drivers on the leading lap as they go side by side in front. That is going to be Tamás Simon trying to get one done on David Toft, trying to make this move happen. And we cut away then to the leaders. Look how close it is as they challenge through. And Ugolotti, oh, which way do you want to go? Left, right? Almost in the grass trying to find a way to go through and still trying around the outside of 2. It's off camber, so you can work the outside line power move. Gets it done at 3. And he's going to try and maybe think about it at 4 as well, but didn't have the angle up the hill to make it happen. So some really aggressive racing going on then back for what is now 7th, 8th, and 9th. At this point in time in the race. Top 5 all in a line as well. But what an incredible race here, Peter, we are seeing.
Yeah, it's a real belter so far here at the Hungaroring. Of course, a relatively new addition to the iRacing service, and what a super job the software engineers have done to replicate this incredible facility in such finite detail as well. But it's a circuit that's been home to so many dramatic Grand Prix over the years, and this is going to be no different at the moment. It's in the favour of Van Loosenoord as we speak. But I suspect, like many Hungaro Grand Prix, it's going to come down to the strategy. And we're at that turning over point now. 10 laps in, the medium tyres are going to start to fade. And right enough, the leaders are now well into the 1-minute 19s. And they're starting to come back towards the runners on hard tyres as well. So who is going to blink first?
That was close between Ugolotti and Simon. Ugolotti was desperately trying to corral that machine back to a straight line, and it didn't quite work out. So Tamás Simon was very much able to jump through and get things done. We are hearing that there was an incident between Brian Lockwood and Cedric Beale. That's why Beale is effectively now out of the race as things stand. No more to say about that. But Kenneth, we are in this position right now where the front 5 are just being patient. They're settling into the strategy. But here is this battle that continues to go on as we focus on forward now to 2nd place and Pajemajouave Lemonek, who runs wide, very wide actually, there through that turn number 11 corner. And that's going to be crucial between now and the end of this race because this is the final race of the season. You have an update on how penalties will be applied.
Yeah, penalties is going to be big here. And from Hungaroring, as one driver go down pit road, that is indeed Przemysław Lemonek pitting from second. There is a big threshold there, but it's only 12 incident points between off tracks and other incidents between themselves and other cars. And if it is thresholded, if it is past the 12 incident limit from either of the drivers here today in this race, there will be a points penalty at the end of the season for them. So they want to make sure that they can keep their cars as clean as possible. But meanwhile, a very short stint here, Jake. We probably weren't expected drivers to go on the medium tires to start, but they did it in quali. They're now starting the race, and as of lap 11, they've used all the life on those yellow sidewalls. So they're coming down pit road. Thomas Simon, one of the only other ones coming down along with Lemonek.
Absolutely. So Toth came in, so did Simon. And as they exit, it is going to be worth talking about it. The second, third, and fourth at the moment here, this group at the moment. It's worth talking about here, Peter, just how difficult this pit entry and exit is going to be. It's probably one of the slowest transit speeds they'll have all season long as they travel roughly around 50 kilometers an hour as they go down the lane.
And in a car with 900 horsepower that revs to 20,000 RPM, that just feels like you're crawling on your fingertips. As do any of the leaders take the pit road? No, but there's a great look at just how tricky that pit entry is. And if you're following a car too closely and they decide to dive in, we could see fireworks there.
We certainly could, as there is a little think of a look to the inside as we see Mandanark in and also Matteo Galotti taking the decision then to dive down into the pit. There was a little look there potentially between Van Lozenoord and Costantini, and that's going to be a little bit concerning here for Van Lozenoord. He doesn't want to get embroiled or caught up here, Kenneth, in this race with certain drivers behind, especially not Costantini, who will be trying to make sure his pass is a pick for Peter Berryman.
Yeah, Van Lozenoord does not want to kind of hold this position too long, or else things are going to go sour very, very quickly, as he's posed right now in an Apex SDK sandwich. But I don't think he also wants to play the undercut too early either. I know the sidewall tires are starting to fall off, but in the undercut strategy, when you're working your way through the field, this track contains a lot of dirty air when you've got a lot of drivers scattered across the track. So it's obviously going to get harder when you're playing the undercut strategy to cut through the field rather than playing an overcut and then being a little safe and not having to work through as many cars as you can. It's a bit of a touch there from Michele Costantini. He's telling Van Lozenoord, let's go. And they're both going to go down pit road this time.
Berryman as well on the back of it. So Michele Costantini starts to get the hurry up message, getting right up underneath as they dive in. Johan Hart in the 90 staying out, and that is a telltale sign in terms of this race right now, Peter, that it seems that the Apex and SDK gaming cars are better on their mediums.
Possibly, but Johan Hart at the moment just dipped into the 1 minute 20, so there is an opportunity for those who have pitted early to get the undercut here. For example, Przemysław Lemonek, he's onto the hard tyre now as well, so watch out for him, the Polish driver, and we'll see how he comes out, and right enough, comes out pretty well.
Looks like Costantini's got a speeding penalty. He's still down on the lane. Berryman was a lot shorter on that stop than Van Lozenoord. Nearly jumped him, actually, in the stop. But Van Lozenoord just got himself out ahead then. So a very crucial battle. The two title contenders are 10th and 11th at this point in time. And they've got to work past some cars who haven't yet stopped. That's Andreas Henkel just in front. This is a critical phase of the race here right now, Kenneth.
It indeed is, and when they come out of pit road right now, they sit 10th and 11th. Now 9th as Van Lozenoord will creep by Andreas Henkel, and you got to believe that Berryman's going to do the same thing in a couple laps time, so they're going to try and cut through the field. And now for Van Lozenoord, obviously he has to wait for a lot of drivers up in front to come down pit road, most likely, of course, Florian Lebigra, race leader Johan Hart, and a lot of the other guys who started this race on the hard tire. But if he can make a buffer now between himself and championship competitor Peter Berryman, that means he is still going to edge out on the points gap, considering the fact that he still has the fastest lap point as of lap 14. So Van Lozenoord is going to try to push this car a little more to make sure that distance between himself and Berryman is as large as possible as Johan Hart, race leader, comes down pit road for hard tires.
He certainly does. Number 90 then coming out and away then from his pit stop. That will be Przemysław Lemonek just behind, and he'll retake the race lead then at the front. A bit of side-by-side as Mandanark and Del Campo changed positions then just in the background, but A nicely worked battle we see here. Berryman trying to get past Henkel quickly. Henkel started the race in the 09 machine on the hard compound tires, so that's been going for 14 laps as he dashes through turn number 3, up the hill then towards turn 4. And this is what we were saying here about this race. You've got to be in position. You've got to try and get what you want. There is Peter Berryman, and he's struggling here, Peter Mackay, to find himself an overtake. And this is going to be costing him so much. He's already seeing here one Martin van Loozenhoorn just start to scamper away.
Yeah, and that's the thing is these cars are not a lap down. They may be on a different strategy, but they're perfectly within the rights to race up for position. Curiously though, Andreas Henkel made it either ran wide or it made it quite easy for Martin van Loozenhoorn to get by. Not necessarily get the same courtesy for Peter Berryman. Now that might now. Just as I say that, he goes into the pit lane as well. It's almost as if he's listening. That was pretty much the same courtesy there, but it did take a few laps until Berryman got to the back of him. You're right.
You have to get into range. That's the key.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get freebies in this league. Absolutely not. The Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship is not about freebie passes. You have to work for them no matter where you are. And now that means that gap is up to 1.6 seconds between Van Loozenhoorn and Berryman over the stripe. So call that slipstream broken. Van Loozenhoorn now has just got to keep the car on the straight and narrow. Either that, or Peter Berryman's going to have to dig down deep and find some absolutely sensational laps here to get himself back into range in terms of this race, really, Kenneth.
He's going to need to do that indeed. But one positive thing is that he's got a teammate a couple cars ahead, Johan Harth, who just went down pit road for hard tires. Now, Harth is going to be faster, naturally, because he's got newer tires than Peter Berryman does. But he can also play a role in the drivers behind him. Przemysław Lemonek, Martin van Loozenhoorn on the same team. You reckon that those two are also going to work together. So Harth maybe can try and play this to help Peter Berryman in this case. We'll just have to see. They are still all separated. So there has been no, at least, movement between these guys up until this point. But for Johan Harth, his job really is to command and maybe hope that Peter Berryman can get up to him, as I believe we saw a driver hit pit road. That was Jorge Martinez in the number 32 machine up ahead. So that's going to give an extra position to all of these guys. And now they're just playing the waiting game, Jake Sperry, to see when the hard tire guys end up coming down pit road, they're going to cycle back to the lead.
Absolutely. Florian Lebigra then on the hards leads this race. It's Yard in second and Gio Cortese in third as it's split strategy. The port of call today as those on the hard compound who started on still out there include Omar Bahar and James Pinsker as well. They are all there searching for what they go. And there is the number 02 moving his way through. Florian Lebigra driving pretty solidly from Avor in France. He's just keeping himself to himself. Lost the gap very early on, Peter, to the front group, but hasn't been too concerned. Has just been trying to drive well within his limits so far in this race, and it has served him very, very well on this opening stint.
That it has, and remember, Florian Lebigra, he's on a different strategy. He's still got his medium tyre in his pocket, which I would suspect he will put on in the final stint of the race with that 10-lap dash to the flag. And Florian Lebigra could well be a factor for a top 5, possibly even a podium finish today, and that could be critical in the outcome of this race and this championship. However, you have to say, for Martin van Loozenhoorn and for the front runners, those that all used their medium tyre early on, that's where the ultimate fast laps were, on that medium tyre, and it was Van Loozenhoorn that won that kind of mini time trial in the opening stint. That point could really come in handy.
It absolutely could, and that should be a really important thing. Here's Paints with Pinsker right now, and of course we've been keeping an eye on James J. Pinsker throughout the entirety of the season. He's had 9 different liveries. He's decided this time, Kenneth, to combine all 9 liveries he's used this season into one mega livery.
Hey, why not? Make the collage of all the fantastic paint schemes over the course of the season and just mash it all together, see what it looks like. That's exactly what he's done, James A. Pinsker. There's the aviators on him. We usually see the colors there from Pinsker's light screen as he's driving around the racetrack and currently sitting just inside the top 5. Boy, it's been great to see the amount of colors, the amount of themes, all the text, everything that James J. Pinsker has put on his car. And it's been great to see. What a finale to put everything together and make it look beautiful at Hungaroring.
well, he's going to be a little bit concerned with who's behind, and on cue, he'll dive into the pits and give no more help to anyone or hold up anyone as Johan Hath will go by him. So just like that, you can see just how quickly you can manage a way around in terms of the scraps that we see out on circuit. Lemonec really there with Martin van Loosenoord, and it's a case here that these two, the Predator Gaming cars, have been absolutely fantastic in terms of working together. It has been a case so far this season that with a little bit of luck in a couple of rounds, Peter, that Przemysław Lemonec would be a lot higher up in the championship than he is at the moment. But what he's been doing in that secondary role over the course of this season has been crucial over the last 3 races to help out Car 69.
It absolutely has, because before that point, Martin van Loosenoord really was flying solo against a swarm of Apex and SDK cars, all part of the same outfit, of course. And yeah, really tricky without the help of Przemysław Lemonec. But yeah, the Polish driver, Lemonec, really stepped up to the plate, as you said, particularly in the second half of the season.
Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you can get 50% off new sign-ups and 25% off renewals in iRacing's Black Friday sale. So make sure that you check that out and get yourself signed up to iRacing today. In comes Florian Lebigra, and he is joined by pretty much everyone. Omar Bahar is in, Gio Cortese is in as well. That will leave out on his own Jarl Tyen to take a lap lead here in this race at the championship finale here at the Hungaroring. Martin van Loosenoord, as things stand, will take the championship away from Peter Berryman. There is Peter Berryman right now, and give him some credit for the work he's done over the last 5 laps, Kenneth. He's got himself back into range.
That's what he wanted. He wanted them to kind of hold themselves up and then run, get very quick near the latter portion of the stage, and put himself within the draft. Remember, it's 1.1 seconds, the draft between a car behind and a car in front. So as long as Peter Berryman can keep himself within that margin, he's going to be fine. He's going to tail between these guys up until the end of the next stint, and when these drivers inevitably have to go down pit road. So what a job by championship driver Peter Berryman to catch up to none other than his championship rival Martin van Loosenoord. This could be a crucial pass if he gets it done. He just needs to get a little bit closer.
Certainly does, and he can't afford to risk the race right now. He knows that one overtake will swing the balance in the championship. He came into this, did Peter Berryman, 2 points ahead. He finds himself right now 2 points behind. As things stand, Van Loosenoord, of course, does have the extra bonus point in purple for the fastest lap in this race. But as things go right now, it has been a very calm display to start this off. But Johan Hath is currently your net race leader at the moment. Przemysław Lemonec second, and then it's Van Loosenoord and Berryman who are 3rd and 4th. And this is about minimizing risk now, Peter, at this stage. You don't want to throw your race away now, not even before the halfway stage of this race. It's only when you get to those crunch time laps that you really want to put the car in those 50-50 moves.
And actually, I think Martin van Loosenoord is just playing himself into a really nice position for the run to the flag, because, of course, he is in a direct fight with Peter Berryman. But as you picked up on, Jake, he took a lot longer in the pit box than Berryman did in the pit lane. Now, that all comes down to how much fuel they've got on board, so you have to assume that Peter Berryman put less fuel in. Now, also during this the second phase of the race, after they came out of the pits, Berryman has really had to push very hard to bridge the gap, and he's done that very well. However, in order to push very hard, he's driven, had to drive very hard, and therefore has used a lot of fuel, whereas Martin van Loosenoord is very cozy behind Przemysław Lemonec. So I think Martin van Loosenoord, coming to the next pit stop, the final pit stop of the year, this championship, he's played himself into a really nice position. But like you said, got to avoid those risks.
Absolutely, and he's done a very good job of things at this point in time. And here comes the overtake for position. I don't feel comfortable. And there is the change. Van Loosenoord up to second. Lemonec then down into third. It gives a little bit more of a security blanket now for Martin van Loosenoord. As Lemonec falls behind, his job now is to be a rear gunner and make sure that Peter Berryman can't find a way past out there on track. And it increases the championship margin from 2 points to 5 points out there in this race right now. So keep that in focus as it goes through. And it sounds like we have got ourselves a little bit of an incident out there on circuit. It seems like Omar Bahar has been caught out. Let's see it on the bottom of the screen. So he's making his way up the hill towards turn number 4. He goes through the left. And as he grabs the curb on the exit, he's just a little bit too early on the power, Kenneth. And that just spears him into the inside wall.
Now, when I mentioned earlier that curbs are just a big no-no, and that's sort of the same incident that we saw earlier tonight with Marcos Nunez, where he tried to get the maximum out of that curb on corner exit, got a little bit too much, and then the car just snaps, and then you have nowhere to know what to do instead of just wait and just hold on and pray it doesn't hit a wall. And for Omar Baja, that's pretty much very tough there for the driver from San Diego, California. He's going to have to work himself back up and hopefully get that damage fixed by the time this race is over. But this is a critical point, I think, at the front, Jake, because Martin van Loosenoord made the pass. That's his teammate, Przemysław Lemonek, to give him that second place position. But what that did, of course, is grow the points gap, and that gives Martin van Loosenoord more assurance, and again, puts Peter Berryman behind a buffer. Now, Berryman has to work a little bit more. He has to work harder in this next stint to make sure he can get around Lemonek and then try and fight Loosenoord toe for toe, both of them raw, without any sort of people in the mix trying to third party this whatsoever.
Well, now here's the interesting strategy point here in terms of how they were going, and it's how long they went on their pit stops. We saw Lemonek tried the undercut, got himself in on around lap 11. That leaves him effectively 20 and 20 to get himself home then and dry in terms of a 2-stop strategy. Now, that's going to be the key in terms of how they figure out their strategy and when they come in and when they give themselves what they want. The easy thing is going to be, well, we know it's going to be an even stint. We know that we don't have to worry about fuel levels and the tyres are going to wear differently to where they did at the start of the race. It's going to be exactly how they want to with a refueling series like this. But Peter, the key is going to be Berryman's going to have to take longer in the stop. He's going to have to save a lot of fuel right now being tucked up behind Lemonek, and he's still got to stay in range with Martin van Loosenoord. This is almost an impossible situation to manage. The only good thing he's got help in the number 90 who leads this race outright.
Yes, that's very, very important to have an ally in this situation as well. And what's interesting is Peter Berryman does not give away much on his body language, but I have to say, this is the busiest I've seen him on board in terms of speaking with the spotter. Look, even just the speed his lips are moving. We're not used to that with Peter Berryman. We're used to him being the Iceman, and it gives you an impression just how much pressure these drivers are going for. They're going for a big prize, $10,000 for the champion. Even Martin van Loosenoord as well, who's usually the heir of Cam as well, just looks that little bit more tense, doesn't he, on the left-hand side of the screen, and shows you what's at stake here and what they're trying to juggle behind the wheel.
And just to talk about patience for a moment, Peter Berryman was a very avid snooker player, actually. He played in some under-23 championships back in the day, so he knows what it means to be patient and to play a game that is very patient. It's very much part of how he's built up as a driver that will help him. He'll have to rely on those sorts of skills in high-pressure situations to get himself into the mindset of, can I win this race?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. I mean, pushing yourself into that moment under all the pressure, under all the circumstances, and you're kind of able to break through and be the driver to stand out, be in the spotlight, and of course be in a position to win a Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. One thing to note here, Jake, moving forward is, of course, this stint. Remember, they met on the hard tires instead of the mediums when they started this race, so they're gonna have to push a little more. 20 laps, 21, probably going to be the window that they're looking for here in terms of the amount of stints that they can push here for laps at least. And that's probably going to push the draft into a very interesting situation, because now what does Apex and RAG do? Do they try and go together? Do they try and play individual? Yeah, how do they really play this strategy? Because Lemonek and van Loosenoord, they're together. So if they go down pit road, chances are they're going to come out together. They're going to work within each other. But with Apex, since they're separated between the two RAG cars, do they try playing going down together? Is that a little bit too risky? Or do they need Hart to be sort of that placeholder to stay up in the front and make sure the drivers behind don't gain any ground?
That's going to be something very crucial just to keep an eye out on here in this race, as the front four once again make their way on the front stretch. Here's another battle out there on track. This is 6th and 7th at this point in time, in the standings, 7th and 8th on the road. David Toth, Matteo Ugolotti fighting incredibly close here for position. Now, we've seen how Matteo Ugolotti has been gallivanting into overtakes, but has been unable to secure them by being too aggressive. I think now, Peter, we're seeing here a more reserved Matteo Ugolotti. He's got to have to wait and buy his time for a 100% stonewall overtake.
Yeah, Ugolotti's, he's really come up against a very firm force in the form of David Toth. But of course, this is his home race. Tamas Simon, also his home race. They're both of Hungarian nationality. And we were laughing about this before the race. You think they've put just that little bit extra effort. It's that homegrown Prix syndrome, isn't it? It certainly works for Lewis Hamilton anyway at Silverstone. So, it's great to see David Toth and Tamas Simon representing Hungary at their home track, and it really has given them just that extra 2 or 3%.
It certainly has done, and that is going to be key in terms of their battle out on circuit. Toth pushing a little bit wide there, coming out of 11. We're going to see quite a bit of that over the course of the race as they now move through 12 into 13 here. This very tough hairpin that is very awkward actually on entry to get correct, because the track does work away a little bit. You can see how much they're sliding through the corners, trying to get as much grip out of the tyre as they can. This is Ugolotti's chance now. We know the draft's incredibly strong. Toth goes all the way to the pit wall here. Ugolotti was trying to go under. He is still trying to go under. Oh, and undeterred, unmoving. David Toth left about 0.9 of a car's width there on that inside, and Ugolotti could not commit to it. He's still going to have another chance here on the outside into turn number 2, and he slides around the outside, but he had too much oversteer going through the corner, and ultimately Toth able to hold on just for the time being, Kenneth.
He almost held on to that car. Ugolotti did, the Italian, and that was the same corner a couple laps ago where he had made a mistake and lost position to David Toth and Tamas Simon. So that's the reason why he's still behind this duo as of lap 26 and the halfway mark of this race. But Ugolotti, you can tell he's just aggressive. You can tell from his facial expression just how much he is working behind the wheel by the time these tires are wearing and by the time they're getting closer to that second round of pit stops. And he desperately wants to get by Toth, because if he can get by him, it means he can probably get by Tamas Simon, and then he can try and get back into the top 5, which is, I think, arguably the place that he wants to be after getting a podium last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And this battle will continue. And you can see from Ugolotti's expressions, he's having a good old think about it at this point in time. How am I going to manage this overtake, and how much do I want to try and take out of it as I drive? Doesn't want to take too much out of the tyres by being too aggressive with this move. Otherwise, he's just going to fall away in the last 6 laps. Doesn't have an angle in towards turn number 1 this time. But as he pushes forward once again, he knows that patience is going to be the better part of valor in this sort of attempt. Doesn't quite find himself with a position through 2, and it's going to be another chase through the middle sector to the back half of the lap, where he's going to have to be sitting and waiting. But Peter, I do want to point out here with these front 4 that it might soon be a front 5. There in the background you can see that's Valentin Mandanak's number 46. He's got that gap down to 1.7 seconds here to Peter Berryman.
Yeah, but I think Mandanak is going to have to just up the pace a little bit, though, to catch up with this leading pack. He's just a couple of tenths off at the moment, but yeah, there are some good laps in there for Mandanak, but all it would take is a little bit of battling to happen in this front group, and yes, Valentin Mandanak would be right there on the number 46, the man from Champagne country, Rem. I wonder if he'll be spraying any of it today, at least in the virtual world, but that little battle there between David Toth and Matteo Ugolotti, that's absolutely Merry Christmas for Tamas Simon, because they were dropping huge amounts of time battling with one another, and that's allowed Simon to be much more comfortable in 6th position than he was.
There is Valentin Mandanak then up on screen, and for a driver who is 16 years of age and is trying to give as much as he possibly can out there at this point in time, he is absolutely cool as anything, and I've said it so much over the course of this season, and I really do believe it right now here, Kenneth. He could be the next Sebastian Job, absolutely, hands down. All of the marks of talent and personification of being quick are there as we see the move looking up the hill in towards turn 4 and out of 4. It looks like Matteo Ugolotti's finally got his pass done on David Toth through 1 and 2.
Finally, I think he could say it over the radio. Finally, I made this pass. Now I can try and work on the rest of the field. So Ugolotti being patient on the pass, and now he's starting to pull away here from the Hungarian David Toth for Wannabe Sim Racing team. But back to Valentin Mondenak, what you pointed out. There's no doubt that that driver of the 46 has the talent. He's got the speed, and there's been moments where we've looked at him and he's been outright the most quick driver, the most remarkable driver out of the entire field. The problem is he's just had problems getting races together. There's been multiple moments I can recall too where he's been either caught up in an incident, he was tagged by another driver, or just makes a mistake and then just something goes awry. The races goes bad, and then all of a sudden he loses potential points that he could have been using for a potential championship hunt if he got close enough. But with Mondenak being in 5th right now and catching up to this lead group, especially on the worn rubber, I think that says a lot just to how patient and how quick the young driver is as he's slowly creeping up, and he's setting times comparative to leaders right now.
Certainly is. As we take a look at the pass then, it's down the inside at turn number 1. This is the prime place to get it done. You can see on the brakes, just eases it into the corner. The room given there by Toth, who tried to get a run coming out of the corner, but the TQ Engineering car going all the way to the inside to defend. Toth tries to go around the outside of turn 2, but he doesn't have it on entry into the corner. You've got to try and keep the car alongside if you want to use that downhill momentum through turn number 2, and the move then finding itself complete overall. Back to your leading group though, and it has been all calm at this point in time. They're very happy to let Johan Hart dangle out in front. You've got Van Loozenhoorn there in second. Lemonek, of course, still that security in third position, but once again, we're expecting at this point in time, Peter, oh no we don't, Peter Berryman is trying to undercut his way into a position to get ahead. This is so vital on lap 29 of 50.
Well, this is a twist that I did not expect. This is going to require a pretty light foot from Peter Berryman in this last stint, because 21 laps is pushing it on a tank of fuel. So I wouldn't want to have that kind of thing hanging over my head with the run to the flag, but I'm sure Peter Berryman knows something that we do not. Now, I think that might well have caused a few raised eyebrows in the R8G crew of Van Loozenhoorn and Lemonek. How will they respond to that? Will they cover it off? And what will Johan Hart do? I have to say, this has spiced things up massively.
Crucially as well for Berryman, he's just come out ahead of James Pinsker, so he's got clean air to work with as well. And now Johan Hart all of a sudden isn't as quick as what he was, so now he's under threat. Van Loozenhoorn might have to make a move here or dive down into the pits. He's got an angle here potentially in towards turn 12, can't quite get there, and this is what we're expecting here. Driver's starting to get nosy and aggressive. He takes a wider line through 13, looking to angle it up. Does he take a look into the pits? He's going to follow Johan Hart straight in. Przemysław Lemonek, who was the first to pit out of these drivers in the first round of stops here. Kenneth is the last to pit, and look at this. Side by sides, they go into the lane.
It's a duel between Van Loozenhoorn and Johan Hart to pit lane, and it kind of looked like a late maneuver from MVL. He saw that Johan Hart went down, and then like half a second later, dipped his nose down there and said, all right, I'm gonna pit with you. And that leaves Przemysław Lemonek the longest lasting car in 20 laps full on this stint. He's going to be the last one here to stay out of the main group of cars, and that is going to be imperative. Now watch this. Here comes Peter Berryman, the first driver to undercut, and watch MVL and the rest of the gang. Van Loozenhoorn even with Hart, but he's going to beat Hart barely, and here comes Berryman back to turn 1. Martin Van Loozenhoorn has the advantage.
Yeah, and crucially, Hart checked up going through turn 1, allowing Berryman to go through that and saying, this is your race, go and chase it down. So all of a sudden, Van Loozenhoorn just being uber aggressive in the pit stop, getting himself ahead there of Johan Hart. But Peter Berryman now knows he's got work, and it's all down now to Przemysław Lemonek, who extends out of turn 12, knowing he's got to get everything sorted, and he's got to cover everything off, otherwise he's going to be in the wrong position, and he dives down into the pits then from the race lead. So now it comes down to Van Loozenhoorn versus Berryman, but crucially, Peter Berryman has got to stay with Van Loozenhoorn, who right now is deciding, you know what? Full bore, I know you've got to save fuel. I'm going to show that I will need to save fuel later on, but if I can get a gap now, you can't catch me here, says one Mr. Van Loozenhoorn, Peter.
Oh, what is going on inside the head of these two drivers right now? They know exactly what needs to happen. Whoever takes the checkered flag first is the Force Dynamics iRacing Dallara World Champion. But what role will Primoslav Lemonek play in this? We're about to find out as he comes shooting out of pit lane. Will he come out in front of these drivers?
Behind.
Behind, right enough. Oh, well behind.
Absolutely well behind, and he's behind Pinsker as well. He'll be there with Valentin Mandanart and also Michele Costantini, who needs to make another stop. So that's going to be crucial, but here's where the race is. They're third, fourth, and fifth. These are the top three in the championship, and they're all fighting for such important points. It is just whoever is ahead. It's 2 points in it at this point in time. Still Florian Lebigra and Jarl Tyen to come in and make their stops. They have to make those final stops in the race. They're about 5 seconds adrift of them at this point in time, and they can see it. 25 points for a win, 21 points for second, and a point for fastest lap will not mean anything at all in this race right now here, Kenneth, if they are fighting for first and second.
Of course, if they're fighting for the race win, then that's all that matters. Whoever finishes ahead is the champion. And look on the right side of your screen. That's the gap that we had going into this race switched around. But now it's Martin van Lozenoord with a 2-point spread. And he also does have fastest lap bonus as well. So it would have been 1 point between the two championship contenders should he not have had that fastest lap point and somebody else get it earlier in the race. Now the biggest problem is, how are Jarl Tyen and Florian Lebigra going to come out pit road? Because if they can kind of get something together, will they fall behind these drivers here third on back, or are they going to stay ahead and maybe play spoiler here? Martin van Lozenoord now feeling the pressure here. Berryman is telling him, I want to take this away. This is my points top championship. And now he's got teammate Johan Hart to help as well.
He's got a Hart to help, but the key here is that Berryman's got to get this place. He is pretty much stalking his prey through 4 and into 5, and Van Lozenoord has got the unenviable task of trying to keep behind car number 50. He's been in positions like this before, and one thing that really strikes in my mind about Peter Berryman and how he was driving goes back to the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, Peter, where he had the lead at a very tumultuous Monza when Martin Kroenke crashed out of the race. He had the race lead and he put it in the wall. How is he going to learn from that experience and apply it now into a championship scenario?
I would think someone of Peter Berryman's caliber, I think that will not be in his mind right now. He'll just be focusing on the job in hand. He's a proper pro driver, and as is Martin van Lozenoord. And I'm so pleased to see that both of these drivers are effectively going to have a straight dogfight for the championship. All strategy, all things equal, more or less. But here comes Berryman. He's going to have a look.
Oh, they come together! Oh, they come together! Van Lozenoord's around! Just like that! Just like that! It changes on a dime, and Van Lozenoord is out of position, and he'll have to chase so hard to get back to Hart and Berryman. It's in Berryman's hands right now.
Unbelievable, Jake. Going into the corner, Berryman tried to force the nose. They get close together, and it's a launch out of Martin van Lozenoord that could potentially send him out of this race for good. We do not know how much damage is issued on that Dallara IR1, but he may have to get it diagnosed sooner than later. He's lost a couple of positions, but that is crucial to the strategy call because that puts the two Apex duo cars up in front, waiting for Jarl Tyen and Florian Lebigra to pit.
Oh, it's such a 50-50 incident as well. You can't portion blame on a hit like that, Peter. They were fighting for the same piece of real estate, and ultimately it's wheel against wheel. Berryman's come out of that one better, and that could be that.
I'm sure we'll get a look at it again. It'll be interesting to see a replay of what happens. Here we go. We're going to take a look at what happened in that incident then at turn 1 between the two championship contenders riding on board with Peter Berryman. He's quite far back. Big lunge on the brakes. Van Lozenoord gives him the room, you have to say. I don't know how to call that one, to be honest, but for me, if you were to be it's 50-50, right? It's pretty close, but Van Lozenoord, he did give plenty of room there, you have to say.
Yeah, there was room given on that inside, I absolutely agree, but you'd also have to say at that point, Kenneth, that it was a case of they've got to look to where they were on circuit as well. There was still room to be given from Martin van Loosenoord, who was trying to be a little cheeky and pinch as well. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and now you're looking at this in terms of the championship and how it all looks, and you start asking here, well, what does that mean for my instant points potentially for Martin van Loosenoord?
It's going to be a big hit for Martin van Loosenoord nonetheless here. And with that incident, I mean, you just can't fault either of them. They're both racing hard, and they're racing for $25,000 of share. They're racing for a full championship. Take a look at the incident here as they come into turn 1. Berryman dives and nose in. Van Loosenoord wants to just give him the most minimal space possible. And just right there, pushes a little bit, and they're both just trying to race as hard as possible and as cleanly as possible. But when you get really close with these very wide Dallara IR1s, best believe there is going to be some amount of contact. And I'm hearing word from Martin van Loosenoord's crew that they have confirmed received a drive-through penalty for going past the threshold of incidents throughout this race. Van Loosenoord told teammate Przemysław Lemenek, go by. So Van Loosenoord in a tough position here in the final laps of this race.
This is what we've been talking about all championship long, Peter. How it has been Martin van Loosenoord, the quickest on one lap, the quickest when it has come to races. He has the most wins, but when it goes wrong and the machine does not play ball, it plays wrong in a very spectacular fashion. A drive-through penalty, I think, is just the slam dunk that ends this championship fight with 15 laps to go.
To me, there's not a great deal of justice in that, to be very blunt. That is really, really unlucky for Martin van Loosenoord, you have to say. And also, when you look at that replay from another angle, when you see Berryman going over the curb, the car does jump a bit there, which of course negates the braking and therefore, you know, hits the side of Van Loosenoord's car. I think if you're Martin van Loosenoord, you're going to feel pretty aggrieved right now. However, this is far from over. We know that, of course, those 12 incident points play a factor. There's post-race penalties to think about as well. I don't think we've heard the end of this one somehow.
I don't think we have, but this is a race where we still have a couple drivers to come in. Florian Lebigra and Jarl Tyen effectively fighting just in front of this group on screen here of the two Apex cars, Berryman and Hart at this point in time. And that's going to be a really interesting battle. These two still have to come down for their final stop. Expect them to move onto the medium compound tyre and try and make something happen at the end. But what an incredible fight these two are going to be having. They've been pretty much here, Kenneth, glued to each other all race.
Yeah, and the gap is actually closed between these two. Jarl Tyen was kind of a couple seconds behind Florian Lebigra when we talked about them. Just as the main group in Hearth, Berryman and Van Loosenoord went down pit road, these drivers are staying out, and Lebigra had a convincing lead up until now. He's fallen off the pace, so that means that Jarl Tyen's like, all right, I'm going to try and take as much as I can and take the position away, and they are in a prime position to possibly get something good out of this. Remember, they still have to pit one more time, and they've got Hearth and Berryman behind them, so what that means is that when they come down pit road, they're going to have the freshest tires, and they can get by the Apex Racing cars if they decide to, and that can give them an opportunity to potentially spoil and win this race. Here comes Jarl Tyen inside turn 1, gonna make the pass for the race lead.
Oh, and very nearly some contact there. A double take through the corner for Lebigra. Had to leave a little bit more room as they now ride down the hill through 2. You can see just how much you have to work and ratchet on that steering wheel to make sure that the car stays planted. And now it becomes a group of 4 at the front of this pack. Up the hill through turn 4. Fast left-hander. Such a committed corner, which leads in towards turn number 5. This long 160-degree right up the hill. And then you got that chicane that follows up immediately after. And this middle sector here, Peter, is all about staying in range, because this is where the dirty air effect that you get, that aero push, is so huge.
It is, yeah. Basically, the turbulent air kicking out from the back of the car in front damages the aerodynamic downforce that you have on the front of the car, and yeah, it just feels horrible. It's like the Bermuda Triangle of grip. It just disappears. Interesting one. It'll be about, I would think, 2 or 3 laps before we see Jarl Tyen and Florian Lebigra before they go into pit road to fit medium tyres for the charge to the end. We could see some quick laps from them later on as well, but you've got to think as well is that Berryman and Hearth, they've got to play this one very smart here as well, because they can potentially get held up, and they don't need to take the risk now. They're in the driver's seat now for this championship.
And there is the pass. Berryman moves up then into second position, getting by Florian Lebigra. Not much that you can argue against that. It's old tyres versus newer tyres, and it was always going to be Peter Berryman's move, and now he'll just have to try and make it risk-free here for the race lead against Jarl Tyre at this point in time. And it's so important in this phase of the race. You know that the race is pretty much in your hands at this point in time, that Van Loozenhoorn has a drive-through penalty that he has to serve within 4 laps. It is a case for Berryman that he's just got to make that move as plain and as simply as possible. He's got to do it cleanly. And after that, I'd say he has no worries from now to the end of the race.
Indeed, Berryman just has to play it safe. He doesn't need to do anything drastic, and he doesn't really need to win the race. He's got a 12-point spread between himself and Martin Van Loozenhoorn anyway as they stand. So he doesn't need to do anything wild. He doesn't need to force the issue here on race leader Jarl Tyne and wait for them to go down pit road. He just needs to hold on. Final 12 laps. There's going to be no interference with cautions or anything. So he's got no other choice but to just hold on. Wait to the end of this race. There's Florian Lebigra to head down pit road for the last time here in today's race. We should expect some medium tires, sidewalls on that Dallara RO1. We'll just have to see. That leaves the 6 machine as the only other one not to pit in the entire field. And for Berryman and Harth, just hold on. Your team Apex now 11 laps away from a championship.
11 laps away for Peter Berryman. He knows he has done everything correctly. He's not risking the overtake against Jarl Tyne. He knows the number 90 of Johan Harth is there behind. And ultimately, I'd say this race isn't entirely 100% done. They've still got Przemysław Lemonek, and all they're sitting waiting. You got Van Loozenhoorn still there 5th place at the moment, still due to come in and make that stop. But you've got Przemysław Lemonek, who is there just chasing in front. So Van Loozenhoorn, I think, knows his race is over. He's done pretty much all he can do. He's got himself the fastest lap bonus point, but, you know, Peter, this is racing, and you make your own luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Van Loozenhoorn will be bitterly disappointed, I think it has to be said. But Przemysław Lemonek is not done here. He is absolutely flying. He was 1.2 seconds quicker than Johan Harth last time by. And there he is in that black car with the white wheels. The Predator gaming machine is now right on the tail of Harth. So maybe Lemonek will play a final part in this drama.
Oh, Tyne's defending here into turn 1. And Berryman can't get the move sorted that way. Can he make a move into 2? He's looking for that run to the outside line. Try and pick this one off. Tyne wants to show it. Lemonek's trying to dive down the inside behind as well. So they're all starting to fight over each other. They're tiptoeing around Jarl Tyne. Door is shut behind as well. What an incredible fight here. Berryman is looking every which way to get past Tyne, but Tyne's just saying, no, I want some time at the front. I've earned this race lead by going on a different strategy. Yes, I may have to come in and make a stop soon, but I'm going to enjoy my time at the front, Kenneth, and he's entitled to fight for the race lead.
He is, and he's got nothing to lose here. He's not running for the championship, and he just wants to go away with a checkered flag and send things off for round 10 of the series. And after Jarl Tyne has suffered some consequences, has suffered some hardships throughout the series, why not try and go out on top as he is still dueling with Apex Racing's Peter Berryman? I can imagine Berryman maybe a little bit frustrated, but maybe not, again, like I said, trying to push the issue here. So he's just going to wait for the opportunity to open itself up and possibly the moment for Tyne to hit pit road. Indeed, there's the left-hand turn to the pit entrance. The 6 machine race leader is in. That'll hand the lead directly to championship leader Peter Berryman.
It certainly will. So there is the race lead and the championship lead at that. Defensive goes Johan Harth into 1 as Lemonek tries to go around the outside. Doesn't quite get there. Just extends a little bit off of the exit then and looks to try and challenge here. Big lunge down to the inside, crossing the beams. There's contact between them as they go through, but Lemonek has the pass then on Johan Harth and moves up to 2nd.
Brilliant move there from Przemysław Lemonek. He got blocked a little bit on the exit of turn 1, but didn't let that get to him. And a huge power move. And now he'll try and set off in hot pursuit of Peter Berryman, who's going very, very quickly. He's 2 laps younger tyres on. How much of an effect will that have? Well, we'll see. It certainly made a difference in the last couple of laps, but with 9 to go, this Grand Prix is far from over.
Absolutely, and it's going to be crucial to see that as well. Now, if you look down at 6th and 7th as well, we talk about this battles all throughout the order. The key is going to be that 6th and 7th are basically 1 position in front, And by metric of how they've done this season, Ugolotti and Toth are tied on points at the moment. So that's another interesting scrap that we've got out there. There is Martin van Loosenoord's number 69 machine in 4th position. And he is continuing on his chase at the moment. Now here comes Johan Hart straight back at one Przemysław Lemonek, and he doesn't make it too difficult after the contact last lap at turn number 2. I think you'd call that a very safe redress. Now, here's the replay here. Look at this. Braver, late look to the inside. He tries to shut it, and by the time he's at the inside and Hart's registered that he's there, he's turning in, he's already alongside, and there's contact there, really, Kenneth.
Yeah, there was some contact there, and Przemysław is just trying to be aggressive there to the inside. He slides up, hits Johan Hart, and thankfully none of them get a severe damage on suspension-wise or any wheel damage here from that incident, so they're still liable here in the final 8 laps to just do as much as they can for this last podium position. I know they're both likely going to finish on the podium should they stay like they are, but Lemonek wants that extra point. He wants the extra prize pool for finishing in P2, so definitely on the way to get past the Apex Racing car, and he's making it harder for Hart, which is in turn letting Berryman pull away, which I don't think is the plan here if you're Przemysław Lemonek. It's an interesting case here just because of how hard he's fighting the 90 machine, but coming into the final 7 laps, you can see that Peter Berryman has just pulled away. He is well without any sort of draft from second on back, and he is just aiming to hold on. I believe that's a lap car just behind him as well.
Yeah, that is the Euromaster car of Alejandro Del Campo that he has got around, who is in 16th position and just outside of the points. Our retirees so far today, you can see down at the bottom, Omar Bahar, Brian Lockwood, Cedric Beale, Ben Fuller, Marcos Nunez, and Sam Keitert all out of this race at the moment. Van Loosenoord, though, I don't think it's a drive-through penalty. I think he's just gone over that 12 incident point limit, which would be a 10-point penalty out there. That's what he's maybe in trouble with at this point in time. So he's making his way through, up the hill through 5, and now charging towards that 6-7 chicane at this point in time. You know, he's going to be back on that range here with Hart and Lemonek. He'll still have a chance potentially to pick up a podium, and that podium will come with a bounty of $100, $200 for second, and $300, of course, for the race victory. And you'd say for Martin, his podium aspirations are not entirely over at this point in time, Peter.
No, you can tell that Martin van Loosenoord is just throwing everything at it at the moment to try and put together some sort of charge, not giving in until the checkered flag drops. And yeah, hopefully he'll be able to get a little bit of a hand from his teammate here, Przemysław Lemonek, to try and get as many points as possible and let everything else play out. All you can do when you're behind the wheel is just try and get as many points as you can as far up the field as possible. As Hart goes wide, a little mistake there from the Frenchman, 2 cars up.
Absolutely, and this is going to allow Lemonek a shot then. Isn't going to take it this time. Going into turn number 2, wasn't quite with an angle to make that a reality at this point. So there are looks, there are availabilities, and maybe trying to get it up into 4th position, into the 4th turn, and so that's not going to be ideal then in terms of trying to make that move. So that is a case of just stay patient, just wait, 6 laps to go. The fight for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and you can say 5th as well with Mandanark there. Still far from its conclusion at this point in time, and Lemonek has shown a real get-up-and-go attitude right now here, Kenneth, to trying to get this move. He wants to get it done. He wants a podium to finish off this season, and he is absolutely relishing the thought of 2nd position.
He definitely is, and he wants to make quick work of Johan Hart. There's no telling in that. Of course, Johan Hart in turn 1 the last time by went very wide. That could have been the opportunity there for Lemonek to dive to the bottom, but instead just held back, didn't really have as much momentum to get by the Apex Racing car. But for Lemonek, I mean, this is going to be a solid way to cap off what has been, I think, for him, a very disappointing season. There's been so many times where he's been taken out of contention when he's had very quick cars out of that Predator Sim Racing camp, and he's been able to put up fights between himself and the rest of the top 3 and the titans of the championship, really. So if Lemonek can push over to 2nd, even stay himself in 3rd with 5 laps to go, it's going to be a solid cash prize of a couple $100, and of course a solid knowing factor that he finished on the podium at the end of the race, and he can go out with a solid run to the finish here from Hungaroring after what has been a tumultuous season overall.
Absolutely, and what a great season we have had so far. There have been highs and lows, and every little bit in between has been fought for tooth and nail. And you could say, Peter, at this point in time, if there is any better understanding of why you should get into sim racing, I think this season has just shown that every race has seen incredible racing through one form or another.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fantastic motorsport, full stop. And the guys at the front of the field put in so much dedication and time. I mean, Martin van Loosnord, for example, he's a full-time job and tries to get his practice in the evenings. A lot of the other drivers, full-time sim racers as well. And they really approach this in the most professional manner possible, and they really deserve the accolades they're getting. This is a tough car to get your head around. It's very, very fast, very, very technical. And, you know, it really has been the Apex team and the RHG Esports who've really been the class of the field. And they both have really brought a lot of pride to their respective outfits.
Absolutely. And as they go through the left into the right then here of this beautiful, beautiful Hungaroring circuit, it's now about what can you do to make those moves. This middle sector we've been talking about, so difficult to make a pass. You're either lining it up for 12 here, Kenneth, or you're trying to line it up somewhere else. You're trying to get it in for turn 1, turn 2. So tough to try and make passes happen.
And that's what's been the commotion throughout the driver base throughout this entire week, this championship week, was that Hungaroring, going into the event, many drivers were expressing that this is the most difficult track. I said it at the top of the show that it's heralded as the most difficult track driving-wise in the entire calendar, because you don't have a lot of straights. You don't have a lot of places to relax either, apart from pretty much that main straight back to turn 1. There's not many places where you can just kind of get the muscles relaxed and just hold on and then focus on the rest of the corner. You have to keep yourself concentrated at all times, full force, 150%. So with this track being as tough as is, of course, that's only going to make passing even tougher when you're getting pushed both mentally and physically behind the wheel. If you look at some of the cameras that we've seen throughout the season, a lot of these drivers have insane force feedback on their rigs, so they are really feeling the forces of this Dallara IR01, and you got to imagine that in the final laps, they're waiting to get that relaxation over with, because they've been tense all season and throughout this entire race.
I need to apologize here, ladies and gentlemen. There has been a bit of a miscommunication over the line here with so many different moving parts here in this race. There is no penalty right now for Martin van Loosnord. He's just got to try and win it on the track. He's 11 points back at this point in time. Live points as it is how he's got to get it done at this point in time. But with 3 laps to go, it'll be 2 at the line. We've been keeping an eye on that podium. It's just been calm over the last 5 or 6 laps. I think they're just trying to get themselves into position, and really, if they want to go and make that move, they're going to have to make it and be really, really aggressive about how they go and how they manage that attack. It's not been the case to be had at this point in time, Peter, that, you know, Lemonek has just really dialed it off. They've probably told him just to calm down a little bit. And when you're going for that move, make sure that you're guaranteeing that pass, so you're not going to be, you know, throwing it up there. And, oh, he makes a huge mistake into one. And there goes Van Loosnord through.
Yes, possibly a mistake, possibly a bit of coordination there to allow Martin van Loosnord to go by, letting the team car go through and have a fight for this. You would expect that, as Martin van Loosnord goes off in hot pursuit of Johan Harth. And, well, let's see what he can do in these last few laps. They're on to the last part of the tyre now. These tyres will be crying enough, and that is really tricky around this Hungaroring.
Yeah, and that is really not ideal in terms of the circumstance there for Lemonek, and he was a little bit frustrated actually there through turn number 1. So Van Loosnord up into 3rd position. He's on the podium, and Johan Harth is just getting himself away as we are just about to start here, Kenneth, the final lap of the season.
This will be the final lap here, the final run around for all of the drivers here after 9 crazy rounds. Hungaroring, the final lap, and for Peter Berryman, it's just one more trip around this Hungaroring circuit, and he will be a Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix champion for the very first time in its inaugural season.
This has been a season where everyone has been fighting tooth and nail. It has been a case of streaks in the middle of can you beat me? It has been a case of trying to coordinate every single element of metric. And for this driver on screen, Peter Berryman, it has been about hard work and dedication. It has been a series after series after series of development, of showing that he has the pace to challenge some of the elites that iRacing have to offer. And for the first time that he finds himself in a championship situation, he has been pretty much faultless with the way he's driven back to 6th and 8th place finishes earlier on in the championship, to knowing exactly what he's needed to do. It has been very much like Alain Prost, the way he has driven this championship so far. As he makes his way into turn number 12, he knows that he is just 2 corners away from something that maybe a few rounds ago didn't look possible. Peter Berryman, rounding the final corner, can say it is his championship all to himself. A pump of the fist as he wins the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. I think he said there, "I'm happy." I'm pretty sure he absolutely must be. And you can see there, the Apex cars, Johan Hart just behind as he's getting himself through. But as things stand, pending, of course, anything that does happen that we are unaware of at this point in time, Peter Berryman is your champion. And really, Peter, that is just a sterling performance. He just had to do what he needed to today. And he just got his head down, buckled down, got to work.
Well, that's the way to do it in style, isn't it? To win the last Grand Prix of the championship, making it 3 wins on the season. Peter Berryman, like you said, he's been the most consistent in the championship and has recovered when things have gone wrong as well. What a drive from the man from Belfast. And, well, we do love ourselves some victory donuts here at iRacing too.
Oh, we absolutely do. And every reason to celebrate, having a wonderful, wonderful time with the battling that has gone through. And I believe here, Kenneth, you've had your ear out, and I believe you'll have that opportunity to talk to Peter Berryman soon.
Indeed, I have. And Peter Berryman, I mean, consistency, guys, that's been the key for the driver for Apex Racing, even against the giant in Martin van Loosenoord with 6 wins on the season. Peter Berryman was able to keep his head strong, slow the bleeding on his bad days, and be able to walk away now as unofficially a Dallara iRacing Grand Prix champion for the very first time. And here we indeed do have our champion, Peter Berryman. Peter, how does it feel being a champion after what was a wild season from start to finish, as you get your 3rd race win here tonight from Hungaroring?
Yeah, over the moon. I mean, the guys the whole season have been unreal, particularly this race as well, especially the guys, behind us, making the strategy calls and things like that, always keeping us calm and letting us know what's going on. Yeah, maybe not really the way I maybe wanted to win it. But I feel like the incident, I did everything I could on the Apex there, and Martin just sort of left no room. So, yeah, racing incident, game that it has to end that way. But yeah, what a year from the guys, what a team. Yeah, buzzing.
It was an overall effort from start to finish. I think we could tell that from all the teams that were entering into this season. But for this race, I know you had a 2-point edge over Martin van Loosenoord. Certainly nothing was guaranteed. Certainly you still had to put the work in order to get this championship. So what was the toughest challenge here over this race? Did it seem to be the track that provided the hardest challenges? Was it really traffic? Or what seemed to stand out the most for you as kind of the biggest hurdle to get you to this point where you ultimately end up as a title holder?
A bit of everything, really, that you said there. I mean, it's very, very difficult to overtake here, so track position and qualifying is really, really key. I battled that, so yeah, it definitely wasn't the best way to start the day. Could have been far worse. So starting from 6th, I knew that there was a bit of work to do. Luckily, Johan got pole, which was extremely important. I don't know how to put it into words how important that pole position really was for this race, so we can control the pace and do what we need to do at the front of the field. So clutch from Johan there. So huge thanks to him for that. But yeah, I mean, the track temps are really hot here. It's extremely difficult with especially the rear tires. I mean, at the end there, I was on a knife edge with the rears. So yeah, really, really tricky to manage those. I felt like we had more speed than RHG here. I think it was pretty clear to see when we came out for the last stop there that Martin speed-wise was pretty weak. You know, if you get two cars that are on similar pace, it's very, very difficult to even get close. So, you know, the fact that I was able to have a few looks into T1, I felt pretty confident that, you know, regardless of what happened, you know, when we touched there, that I probably would have came away with the win. So, yeah, I had so much confidence going into that last stop when I came out. Yeah, managed to get the job done.
You get the job done, and now your team and yourself can celebrate overall for an inaugural Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. And going into this race, I remember talking with a bunch of people before this race began, and George Simmons, the strategist for the team, was excited about the possibility of a title because there could be a lot on the line for not only you as a driver, but for the entire team of Apex Racing. So what does this mean for you, and what does this mean in the grander scheme of things for Apex as a whole in sim racing?
I mean, for me, I guess it's a bit of a dream. You know, I'm pretty sure most guys that start iRacing trying to get to the high levels, you know, always want to win a world championship. So, you know, no one can take this away from me that, you know, I'm a world champion. So, yeah, I'm definitely super, super chuffed with that. And for the team, I mean, what a huge end to the year. Obviously, with John winning the Rallycross Championship last night, and then we win the IRO1 World Championship tonight. So, yeah, I'm not sure that's been done, or yeah, I'd be surprised if it has. Two World Championships within a day of each other. So, yeah, what a year. What a way to top off the year for the team. So, yeah, super happy all around.
Well, it won't bother you anymore, Peter. We'll let you soak it in and celebrate this championship. Congratulations on winning this race here today from the Hungaroring, and congratulations on being the 2021 Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix champion.
Wow. What an important battle that was in terms of how everyone needed to be. But Kenneth, you've found yourself with Martin van Loosnoord, a third place for him, but just on the wrong side of it for the championship today.
Yeah, here with Martin van Loosnoord, who ends up third, but ultimately just short of the title. Martin, walk us through, I think, that the last portion of that race. No, you were in attack based on strategy. Just give us your perspective behind the wheel on what happened there in the final stint.
You know, I mean the final stint. That was just holding on. I couldn't afford any off track, so I was just you know, putting a lot of pressure on myself to keep it in between the off tracks, and yeah, and I finished P3.
You're able to get the podium out of this one, and I think overall this season, I mean, 6 wins overall, a bunch of top fives, bunch of qualifying efforts that put you near the front of the field. I mean, I know it's not the championship that you wanted, but what can you take away from, I think, what has overall been a very positive season in terms of checkered flags and overall performance by not only you, but from your entire colleague group and RAG?
Yeah, it's a very difficult championship. We've all put a lot of effort into this, and you know, so did Apex. We've been having great battles, and congrats to Pete, obviously. It's, good on him. So yeah, you know, it's been a very rough 16 weeks almost, I would say, with the pre-qualifying just before it, and yeah, I mean, we can definitely say we got the hang of this car. It's an awesome thing to drive. So, but yeah, it's definitely a tough one. This thing is a beast. It's going so fast, and then for an hour long of sweating around, it's yeah, just need to be focused.
Focus was the ultimate key, I think, throughout this entire season with a car this fast and with a track selection that was also just as tough. Martin, for moving forward here, I know this is a little bit tough, but for the rest, I guess moving forward for not only yourself but RAG, what's in stake here? What's the approach for you guys moving forward? What are you guys going to try and do, I guess, for the future in time and to try and get some success later on down the road?
Yeah, you know, as RAG, we're on all the platforms where you can race on. So, but you know, on the we keep fighting in the virtual Le Mans series in R Factor 2. We will keep battling in the VCO Pro Series with the LMP2. I get to have a drive next week, So it's going to be fun. There's also a Porsche with some prize money. I think it's just the end of this month, 28th. So yes, it doesn't end here for me, of course. It's a lot of stuff to do, and yeah, I mean, let's move forward and look at all the positives that we've reached.
There's a lot of positives to take away on this season. Martin, want to thank you so much, not only for taking the time to talk with us, but for completing an absolute insane season inaugurally for the Dallara IRL1. Congratulations on the entire season so far. We wish you the best of luck moving ahead in the future.
Thanks, guys.
Martin Van Lozenor, just short, Jake, of the championship, but definitely a great season overall on the outlook.
Absolutely. And this is what we can definitely say in terms of how everyone's pushed. Here's confirmation of results. It is Peter Berryman's win here, which is also spearheaded with a championship, a victory margin of 1.9 seconds over Johan Hath, with third position going to Martin Van Lozenord in the end. Przemysław Lemonek in fourth, Valentin Mandanark fifth, and Matteo Galotti and David Toth finished their championship level on points. We will need to go to Countback to look at that. Florian Lebiga and Jarl Tyon's alternative strategy gets them 9th and 10th overall then with their efforts. And as they push back down, Michele Costantini, how could he have been a threat in this race, finishing in 11th? The final point going to Gio Cortesi there in the number 7 machine. And a lot of retirements hits there at the Hungaroring. Bahar, Lockwood, Ben Fuller, another driver who could have been huge in terms of the run-in. Of course, Marcos Nunez and Sam Keitert getting all caught out on lap number 1. But this is what championships mean. You get drivers who know that they've got to do everything they can to win. It was the closest championship I think we've ever had open wheel going into a finale, and by every single metric it lived up to the billing and then some here today. Peter, I'd like to bring your final thoughts in on this before we bring ourselves to the end. It has really been an incredible season, and two drivers who I think both could have been champions, both deserved that opportunity to go out there and prove themselves today, and they both proved they left everything on the track.
Absolutely. You mentioned, looking at those who maybe weren't convinced about virtual motorsport. Well, there you go. There was your answer of a top-class competition. But to have top-class competition, you need two top-class athletes and two top-class stars. And just in those two interviews there, you've got your champion, Peter Berryman, amazing amount of grace and pride and showing what it means to win a world championship. Then you've got Martin Van Lozenord, who's just had the championship, he's lost the championship in the last round. And talk about professional, talk about measured and showing class in the face of defeat. That is what I'll take away from today. Both drivers, both Peter Berryman and Martin Van Lozenord, both should be incredibly proud.
And for those who are joining us for the first time, Kenneth, who are seeing this as a championship and this as a one race on its own, how important has the journey been for this championship? How much struggle, how much the changes have been in terms of the racing over the course of this season?
I mean, it's been imperative, to say the least, Jake. I mean, you can see the roller coaster of emotions, the roller coaster of driving ability between the top drivers and drivers who are underdogs, drivers who are favorites, battling each and every week for what is the championship at the end of the day. And I think that really tells to just how big sim racing is. I mean, these drivers put it all on the line. Yes, it's not the real cars, it's not real tracks, but it is real racing. These drivers still feel the same effects. They still work with their teams, and they still put the 150% level that they put on every single race to try and get to this very moment in a championship. So I can only just applaud the entire field for what they've been able to do all season. And of course, congratulations to Peter Berryman, everyone involved there. Just a great season overall. We saw the highs, we saw the lows. We get to end it on a high note, which is good.
We absolutely do, and that will bring us, of course, to a close. If you haven't already, Black Friday sale, 25% off renewals is there and 50% off of brand new memberships. Get yourself in on that. I want to give a massive thank you as well to Force Dynamics, title sponsor of the series. They have been incredible in terms of allowing us the ability to perform here today over the course of the racing that we have had. But it is going to be so crucial to work out how this all came together. It was two titans going at it together. One ultimately had to fall. Peter Berryman, the one who was able to stand on top, from Kenneth Bueno, from Peter Mackay and myself, Jake Sperry. What an incredible championship we have found ourselves with, but it is Berryman who has the biggest smile. He's got the victory, and car number 50 will be forever immortalized here in iRacing as your first Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship champion.